Hey everyone, it's Chris and Sherry Gio once again, truthfrequencyradio.com. It's November 28th, 2015, and it looks like we're going to be making these videos on a daily basis now. We actually just ordered a better camera, so hopefully our future videos will be a little better quality. And not only that, but we probably should be putting a little intro in the beginning or something. And we've got to find a way to do this quick, though, because if we don't do it quick, the videos aren't going to get released. So over the course of the last few days, we've been talking about flat Earth. And there's a reason why we've been talking about flat Earth, because we're trying to break out of all of these boxes that we've put ourselves in. And what bigger box is there than the idea that even science itself is fraudulent, and the construct that we live in is not what we've been told it is. So that's why I really resonate with that information. Now, I've identified myself as a radio show host, nothing else. I talk about any issues and all issues. But really, the foundation of everything is the desire and the quest for truth. And that desire and quest for truth sometimes takes me to places that are contrary to my own beliefs, or that are contrary to the beliefs of others out there. And therefore, rather than becoming the next biggest thing and having the biggest audience out there and pandering to my audience, I have to make a choice. Do I want to speak the truth, or do I want to pander to the audience, even if the audience has opposing views? I want to speak the truth. That's what I'm here for. This isn't a popularity contest. We're not in high school anymore. We don't have to be the most popular and the most loved and the most liked. I want to be known as the most truthful. And that's my motivation. So as my journey began and has evolved, I've come to a lot of new levels of understanding. And one of the most unpopular things that we talk about is religion, of course. They always tell you shouldn't talk about politics, religion, or there's one other one I forgot. I think it's politics and religion.
Yeah.
You shouldn't talk about politics and religion in a professional setting or at Thanksgiving or anything like that, because somebody's going to get mad. You're going to insult their belief systems, etc. But what are we? Are we truth seekers? If we're truth seekers, then let's take it all the way to the edge and beyond the edge. Let's find out what lies beyond the edge. Now, in the flat Earth movement or community, there's a lot of religious context tied to the idea of flat Earth. And it may very well work hand in hand together. The idea of a creating force, creating a dome or bubble, or even an entire artificial construct, and housing the creation within it, could very well be the truth. And understanding that we actually live in a bubble, in a dome, could lead us to the Creator. But we have to also ask the question, who and what exactly is this Creator that they've been pushing upon us since the very beginning of our existence here on Earth? They've told us that the Creator has these religions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and that the Creator, that the creations of the Creator have decided to branch off and start fighting amongst each other because they can't agree on what exactly the Creator wants. But when you really think about Islam, it comes from Abraham's sacrifice, just like Christianity comes from, and Judaism comes from Abraham's sacrifice. In Judaism and Christianity, Isaac was taken up to the mountain, and he was about to be sacrificed, and then God came down and said, stop what you're doing right now. And the entire bloodline from that point became the bloodline that Christianity and Judaism follow. Whereas in Islam, it was Ishmael, Isaac's brother, who was taken up to the mountain, and God came down and said stop, and they follow the bloodline of Ishmael. That's the only split that exists within the two. But when you really go back to it, Allah is nothing more than Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever you want to call him, the God of Abraham. So we can just call him the God of Abraham, just so we can fully understand what energy it is that we're talking about here. So we need to understand this as a species, because right now religion is separating us to the point of literally killing each other and creating zealots out there who are willing to go chop people's heads off, and likewise people that are willing to go shoot up abortion clinics. We just had a situation in Colorado Springs where a Christian extremist went in and started shooting up an abortion clinic. Now, of course, they don't call him a Christian extremist, but that's really what it was. If it was a Muslim, they would call him a Muslim extremist without a doubt.
So they call him a flat-out terrorist.
Right, all right, a terrorist. So there's a game definitely being played here, and we have to ask ourselves, if an energy is making us want to kill each other, what kind of energy is that really? So perhaps we were put here by a creating force, and a creating force actually created the dome. But what was the reason that they did that? If you go down the lines of religion, it was to put us here, to protect us, to give us harmony and ecstasy and bliss and all of this. But if you're in bliss, you're not ever spiritually evolving. Just like if we call it in the physical realm getting stuck in your comfort zone. A lot of people settle for and give up their dreams. They have a dream to do this or a dream to do that with their life. And then they get a job that pays them 50 grand, maybe 100 grand, because 100 grand is pretty good money in this day and age. 150 grand sometimes. And they get stuck in that comfort zone and they start to compromise and say, you know what, I'm good where I am. So forget about my dreams, forget about doing what I love. I'm comfortable. And that's what bliss does to people. You lose sight of where you're going and get stuck and compromise to be where you are. So there would be no need to achieve any kind of spiritual growth, any kind of understanding, any kind of realization if we were in a constant state of bliss. That's why this world or this physical plane has been divided up into positive and negative, night and day, man and woman, up and down, left and right. There's always two. And so you have to have a good balance, because that helps you to move up. I get to a point with my radio career where I'm going, I've got the biggest independent station out there. I'm doing well, etc., etc. Maybe this is all there is. No, I'm still striving for more. And because I'm doing that on purpose, because I'm not going to tell the universe, I'm not going to put out the energy that I'm happy where I am, even though I'm very grateful and appreciative for the steps that I've taken leading up to here. But just to give you an example, a few years ago, I was running a very successful carpet cleaning business and flood restoration business. And I was making really good money, but I wasn't happy doing it. But I could have very well settled for that 150 grand a year and the easy money, even though it was backbreaking work. And I could have walked down that path. But I said, that's not what I want. I want to change people's lives. I want to get out there and speak to people. And so I did, and I let go of that comfort zone and sought out more because my spirit was telling me that I want more. So we definitely don't want to get stuck in our comfort zones, but we're told that in these religions, this energy put us in a comfort zone in order to keep us within this box and to never achieve anything else. There is another element to this as well, and that is another force. Some would call it Lilith, which was Adam's first wife. If you go back and read Genesis, you'll read that there was actually two wives, not just one, and Eve was introduced later on in the story. And then you start to read some of the other texts, the Gnostic texts, for instance, and it shows you that Lilith was expelled from the garden because she didn't want to submit. She didn't want to be submissive. She didn't want to be a slave. So that begs the question, what exactly were we created to be, and why were we put here in this little construct? If we were put here to be slaves, the number one thing that the slave master would want to keep us away from is knowledge. Because when you have knowledge, you're able to free yourself. So there's another side of this creation story, of the garden story, where the Lilith energy, the wisdom, the mother, came back into the construct and talked to Eve and talked to Adam and said, hey, you guys are slaves. And guys, being the idiots that we are, said, no, we're not. We're happy here. But the women, having that divine feminine instinct within them, said, hey, wait a minute, I think you might be right. You know, things haven't been right around here. We're running around naked after all. Slaves are kept naked. And the woman went to Adam and said, hey, I think we're slaves. We need to get out of here. And we protested, no, 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 no. But because of the divine beauty, we were able to we were able to see, you know, and go, okay, well, you know, I'll go ahead and listen to you just because you're so beautiful.
Aww.
And so as a result, some would say we were expelled from the garden. Others would say we were freed from the garden. And we were freed, and with freedom comes responsibility. So of course, if you're going to take an evolutionary process in your spirituality, if you're going to reach that end goal, that highest goal that can be reached, there's going to be strife. There's going to be struggle. When you're climbing up a ladder, you're not going up an escalator. You are climbing yourself up that ladder. Your muscles are going to ache. You're going to slip and fall sometimes. You're going to have to catch yourself. There's nobody going to be there to catch you, especially the higher that you get. You take the responsibility for yourself. But the reward is so great. And it's something that no being, no matter who they claim to be, will give that to you on a silver platter. And you have to question, when you go to every single hotel room and you have a book within that hotel room, when you have people coming and banging on your door to tell you about the good news in this book, when you are brainwashed and programmed from the very beginning, just like you're brainwashed and programmed with the globe, you're told from the very beginning, this is where you live, this is how it spins, this is how it goes around. A lot of times, the globe just sits there in class, but the globe is constantly reinforced in the same way that religion is constantly reinforced to you. See, these are the two biggest traps. And when you really start to research and put your biases to the side, you realize that the energy that has been running this construct is really the evil energy. The Gnostics call it the Demiurge.
Yahweh. And it is the force that is not only jealous and demands complete and absolute loyalty from all of his followers. It's also like a guilt trip thing, that even if you start to get out of the box even just a little bit, then it's negative reinforcement from all angles on this one. You get it from your friends, you get it from your family, you get it from your boss, you get it from whoever is around you, that, oh my God, you're getting out of the box? Oh no, get back in the box, get back in the box. You know,
let's take something like shamanism for an example. I practice shamanism. And if I went to my shaman and I said, you know, I don't really want to practice this anymore, he would say, you go and walk whatever path you feel you're being called towards. And shamanism isn't really as much of a religion as it is a way of life. So I would be walking away from my entire way of life and my way of thinking, which it's not something that's been programmed. It's something that I had to seek out for myself. And shaman don't really teach in the sense that you go to somebody and sit down and read from a book.
right.
To become a shaman, you have to walk the path alone and by yourself. and you have to use the plants, you have to use the traditions yourself and come to your own realizations. Nobody sits there and tells you what's what. And then once you achieve that, then the other shaman go, okay, welcome. You've sought it out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a very powerful wisdom. And it's something that it would be cheapened. And it's like giving a gun to a child. You don't do it because the child isn't ready to experience the gun. However, if a child seeks that out and shows interest from an early age, then you take them and you say, hey, let me take you to the gun range. I'm going to show you how to use this responsibly. And so you have to come to this knowledge on your own. It's not given to you on a silver platter. That's what makes it, in my opinion, more truthful. And that's the real wisdom and the real knowledge. The deception's handed to you on a silver platter. Now, I'm just using shamanism as my personal example because that's what I have come to know. But any kind of esoteric understanding, mystery school understanding, anything like that, you're going to have to seek out on your own. Nobody's going to come and knock on your door. When was the last time somebody came and knocked on your door and tried to give you the truth? Did somebody come and knock on your door and try to give you the truth of 9/11, for instance? No, you had to go seek it out. And it got to a point where everybody's screaming 9/11 was an inside job, so all you need to do is just go to Google and just type in the right thing. Mm-hmm. But if somebody, when somebody first came to you with 9/11 and said, hey, 9/11 was an inside job, your first reaction was, you're full of it. Mm-hmm. No way, I don't believe it. But we've been so programmed with religion that we go, oh, yes, of course, this is the truth. It must be the truth. It's right here. It says here in this book that this is the truth.
Well, you contrast that with shamanism, which basically says you're on your own and you need to get to a certain point before you even know what we're doing here. And you contrast that with Christianity, which basically says, I want you to be like a little child, and you come to me naked and ashamed and like a little child. And then I'm going to spank you, and then we're going to talk about what you did wrong, and then I'm going to send you on your way, and you follow this book, and don't you ever divert away from this one book and this one path. And shamanism says, oh yeah, read into all these other belief systems. Read everything. Get a hold of the knowledge any way you can. And when you come to me, don't come to me as a child. Come to me as an adult, as a thinking, logical adult that's been doing his own research and getting himself to these levels of understanding on their own. Because that's the only way that you're going to do it. It's not going to be handed to you. And if it is handed to you, then it's poison.
In the past couple of weeks, there have been a couple of personalities that I've encountered, some that I've known for a long time and others that I haven't. And of course, I'm not going to name any names because the names aren't important. What's important is the reaction to certain things. So I guess let me preface it by saying this. There's a lot of Christians out there and many people who are watching this video right now, and you know that Jehovah is evil. And you go, well, his name isn't actually Jehovah. Jehovah was the evil one. It's actually Yahweh. And then you come to the realization that no, Yahweh is evil too. And then you go, no, it's not actually Yahweh, it's Yahuwah.
Or Yahuwah HaMashiach or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And I see this more often than not. Because the truth is sitting there eating at people's hearts. And the more you harbor the lie, the more your heart starts to dissolve and ache. But you know it to be true, and so your mind starts doing all of these mental gymnastics and cartwheels, trying to justify to yourself why it is that you feel this evil in something that's supposed to be so inherently good. But I would love to see a time when we all get together and say, hey, this was all a lie. This was all a deception. The entire thing, the truth wasn't twisted. The lie was what was on the surface. The truth was buried. Mm-hmm. The truth doesn't get twisted. The truth gets buried. It gets buried in a bunch of lies. And so those people who go from Jehovah to Yahuwah to, all the different incarnations of this Demiurge It's great. I'm so glad that you're moving in those directions where you're starting to break a lot of this down. But the fact of the matter is, when you think about this Jehovah character, or Yahweh, or Yahuwah, or whoever was committing the atrocities of the Old Testament, you find an entity that is very jealous, very vengeful, very angry, very destructive. And we try to convince ourselves why the evil is actually good. And biblical scholars have been trying to do this for centuries and have actually been doing a pretty good job considering the amount of people who still believe in this evil, or who still believe this evil to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Because this evil is very real. Don't get me wrong. It is very real, but it is an evil. It's not a good. And so let's take the story in Egypt, where Moses went to the Pharaoh and asked to take his people to the desert to pray for 3 days. That's all it was. Simple request. And Jehovah went down and hardened the Pharaoh's heart. And the Pharaoh was about to let him go. But Jehovah interfered to create this outcome. And so Moses went back again and again and again until finally there were plagues and all kinds of things unleashed upon Egypt. And then the killing of all the firstborn children. This is where it gets evil, because you can justify in your own mind, I'm not justifying it, but in your own mind, you can justify Moses coming down with the 10 Commandments and saying, thou shalt not kill, and then go slaughter the Canaanites, because people are told that they were giants, they were this, they were that, etc. Right. But you can't say that any of those children were evil. Right. Newborn babies have not had a chance to develop the sense of good and evil yet. Even Christianity or any religion would say there's an age of accountability. Mm-hmm. And these kids haven't reached the age of accountability. Not only did he kill the firstborn Egyptians, but he also killed the slave girls and every firstborn of the cattle and all the firstborn. So this Jehovah character manufactured this situation. Then once it manufactured it, slaughtered a bunch of innocents. Mm-hmm. There's no excuse for that whatsoever. But we still continue to go, oh, this was a being of love. So there are definitely two energies at work here. And if Satan really is the father of all lies, what bigger lie than to tell you that he's good and convince you that he's good? I think that's ultimately what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with what we've been told is Satan, the darkness. We are dealing with this pure darkness. And so there's a virus that has infected this construct, this matrix. The virus is called Yahweh. And this virus gets into people's minds, corrupts. It's very materialistic. It is the Demiurge. It's the thing that gets inside of you and makes you act in these horrific ways because of your pride in your religion, because of your pride in your belief system, in your BS. And the only way to break free of this Yahweh virus is to realize that the virus exists in the first place.
Yes, definitely. And it's a spirit of jealousy. It's a spirit of anger and hatred of anything that isn't you or isn't Yahweh. We've noticed even just mentioning certain things will set some people off, and we can tell right off the bat, oh, you've been bit by the Yahweh virus. You've got that inside of you, and that's why you're getting all defensive right now. We don't get defensive. If you question our beliefs, you question anything that we're saying, we're like, okay, no big deal. It's not like that with a lot of these Christians. It is very much, oh my God, you're questioning me? You're going to go to hell. And I want you to go to hell. It's this jealous, angry, twisted version of the truth. And it's a twisted version of the truth about us too, because you've got people walking around and they're thinking, oh, I've got to keep this Yahweh virus inside of me or I'm going to go to hell. And my children are going to go to hell. They're not going to be raised right. My husband or my wife is going to go to hell. It's all based on fear. It really is. And this virus has to be stopped. And it's not going to be stopped by violence. It's not going to be stopped by any kind of even reasoning with some of these people doesn't work.
No, the only way it's going to be stopped is through lack of belief.
Mm-hmm.
You have to turn your back on it and say, I don't believe in you. I don't believe you have the control over me that you've said you've told me. I don't believe you are who you are, etc., etc. It's just like Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger used to torment the hell out of all the kids until the only thing that worked was turning their back on the darkness, on the evil. It was a metaphor. You'll find that a lot of movies out there have the same recurring Gnostic metaphor. Even if it's in some of the most kookiest and cheesiest horror movies to some of the most well-produced movies like Star Wars, for instance.
Yep.
You have the farmer boy who comes to these realizations, grabs the light sword, fights the darkness, the Empire. The Empire is the one that has the order all over the place. It's their tyrannical order. And the rebels are fighting against the darkness, against the Demiurge that seeks to control all of us. So that leads me back to what I was saying just a minute ago. The idea of rebellion and Satan in the textbook example of it. So we're told that Satan had a rebellious spirit, and that he was so arrogant that he wanted to be like God, even though they quote Isaiah, and where they're actually talking about the king of Babylon, and they say that they were talking about Satan falling when, oh Lucifer, son of the morning, how thou art fallen, etc. They were I will raise my throne above the kingdom, above the stars of God, or whatever the exact text is. They were actually talking about the king of Babylon. Regardless, I'm getting a little bit off point. You talk about this rebellious spirit and say that this rebellious spirit was because of arrogance. Now, I'm not saying that the Satan character exists or is what Christian dogma has said it is. I'm talking about this rebellious spirit that was expelled from heaven. Well, what if you have a system of control that is tyrannical, that is committing all these atrocities against living beings, angelic beings, or whatever, just like we have a system of control right now, a corrupt government? Aren't we all rebelling against control? Isn't that really what it's coming down to? If you were to see somebody, our government, for instance, hurting children or hurting innocent beings, would you not step in the middle of it? I mean, I know most people won't in this day and age, but I guarantee you, once this government starts pushing to a point, to past a certain point, you're going to see protests and riots in the streets, and we already have, but not on the scale that we could possibly be once we hit that tipping point, because there's only so much tyranny and so much control a human spirit can take until it rebels, until it falls from the kingdom of heaven, until it becomes so arrogant that it says, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I'm not going to put up with this torture. I'm not going to put up with this guilt. I'm not going to put up with any of these negative emotions that you have been provoking within me and feeding off of. We're coming to that point in mass. We're coming to that point at an exponential rate that is so beautiful to see, because we are really taking back the power that was taken from us. And this Yahweh virus seeks to topple the balance, because if it can't get you one way, it's going to get you the other way. And the point of this Yahweh virus is to make you believe that it is God, that it is the creator, and that you are nothing. You are nobody. You are a wretch. You are a sinner. You are this. You are that. You have to have that Yahweh virus in order to even exist. And it's only through his grace and the killing of one of the most innocent beings to ever walk the earth, the horrific torture, and drinking the blood and washing yourself in the blood, that you will be saved, when in actuality, salvation is already yours. You just have to claim it. You have to grab it. But it's not something that's going to be given to you on a silver platter. It's not something that you can go, hey, I believe. Oh,
I'll
I'm
take the
saved.
salvation special.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something you have to work for. Why? Because it's valuable. Because it's something that's extremely, extremely valuable. And there is nothing in this world or in the spiritual world that exists of value that you do not have to work for. You have to prove to yourself, you have to prove to your spirit, and you have to prove to all of creation that you are worthy to receive this type of knowledge. And the only way to do that is to go within and start doing the inner work yourself. The first step is taking a look in the mirror and asking yourself, am I really who I think I am? Am I really what I've been told that I am? Is my belief system a bunch of BS? Or is it the truth? Am I really seeking the truth? If so, what's kept me from reading this book? What's kept me from reading that book? What's kept me from opening my mind and expanding my consciousness? I was recently told by somebody that ayahuasca opens yourself up to demons. This is coming from somebody that's never experienced ayahuasca. This is somebody who's never opened their mind.
But they probably have experienced alcohol.
Oh,
and alcohol does actually let in demons.
Oh, they do. Oh, yeah.
That's why they're called spirits.
They're called spirits. Oh, yeah. They know. They're very open about their drinking. So, I don't drink alcohol because I don't allow those spirits within me. See, those are spirits. But they have you fooled. Up is down and left is right. Light is dark and dark is light. It's always been the case. But Isaiah 5:20 warned us, woe unto those that call good evil and evil good, that take light for darkness and darkness for light. We have to stop taking the darkness for light and the light for darkness, because we're about to bring this whole artificial construct down. And the question is, once it comes down, are we going to be left with light or are we going to be left with darkness? The choice is yours. Anything else?
I think that's
Love ya, and we'll see you at truthfrequencyradio.com.